Can someone talk to, so I can see if I can hear you? Okay, I can't hear you guys.
Myself. Are we gonna get an echo?
What's the meeting number?
Oh, there's Candy's.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're hearing audio off the roof.
Where's the microphone?
I've got it here,
So what if mine,
but
Okay,
but now we can't hear anything from them. Is your volume,
my volume's on.
or no one's talking except for us?
Is Steve on there?
the Jerry is not on yet.
Is he coming on?
I believe so.
Okay, I'm unmuted, correct? Okay. We'll give him a couple more minutes and we'll start.
I was talking with Rebecca Latham, and she said that the state, they all use Microsoft,
WebEx.
Web-
Well, they use Microsoft and that didn't work. So now within the state, they use Microsoft, but when we do our meetings, we use WebEx.
Sybil's gonna contact
WebEx.
New Mexico South Insurance, the league to see
That was my
who
next,
they work with.
We use Zoom.
surely they have some support or someone that can.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
she's gonna,
So we
yeah.
just have AV equipment in place, so we're not just trying to call together.
Okay. Because what we have is that conference call, the conference thing in the middle, you know, the conference phone.
Like the phone that we have here, we can just call in.
Why don't we just call in on that and see how that works?
And then we can put the Zoom on the screen.
On the two TVs.
We'll play with that for next week. Okay, well, Steve's not here and I hate to wait much longer. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call
Mayor Linda Calhoun,
here.
Counselor George Warndall,
Here.
Counselor Dan Foley,
Here.
Counselor Sloan Covington,
Here.
Counselor Steve Cherry. You have a
Okay, if you'd stand and join me for the invocation and the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and this chance to come together and conduct business concerning our town. We ask a special blessing over the Patterson family tonight as they lost their dear father and husband. And we just ask a special comfort for them. We thank you for the snow and for the moisture that you're sending to us. We thank you for the successful ski season that has just ended. We ask that you would continue to protect us from the COVID virus and continue to see the cases go down so that we can return to normal. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is approval of agenda. If I could have a motion.
I'll move that we approve the agenda for the regular meeting of March 23rd, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the minutes from our regular meeting, February 23rd, 2021. If I could have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a couple of presentations. First of all, we have Janie Corrine with Taos Alive and Maria Gonzalez with Vida Del Norte. And we have agreed to partner with them in the Refuse to Provide Alcohol to Minors program. And so they wanted to present to you guys just to give us a little more information. So I will turn it over to Janie and Maria.
Thank you very much, Mayor Calhoun. And I'm going to try to share my screen. Don't move funny or anything. Can you see that?
Not
You have to
yet.
change
Let's
that.
see. Oh, let me go back to Zoom. Hang on.
Thank you.
Bear with me. I'm switching back and forth. Okay.
I'm going to give you a backwards preview because I'm ended
Gotcha.
up.
Okay.
Sorry, I ended up at the end of the presentation instead of the beginning. You're getting a sneak preview. Okay, Maria, take it away. You're muted, Maria.
Don't you love it?
There you go.
It helps if I unmute.
It does.
Standing here talking to myself this whole time. Well, good evening, Mayor Calhoun and council members. Janie and I are here this evening to present to you our Refuse to Provide campaign to help reduce our kids' alcohol use in our community. We've been, as Vida del Norte Coalition and Taos Alive, we've been working on reduction for quite some years. Taos Alive is on their 10th year, and we are currently in our fourth year. And we are, we're really working hard to bring those numbers down. And so, one of the things that we really love so much about Northern New Mexico is the unity and the work together that we all provide one another. I think it's been very apparent with some of the meetings that we've had with Mayor Calhoun and our marshal up there, and being able to bring that together with, we all share we share employees, we share youth, especially as a lot of the employees that work up in Red River, and we really felt like we really needed to help build that bridge between the two communities and work together to try to decrease substance use. And that's what I really love about our small Northern New Mexico communities, is that we're all willing to work together, and especially for our kids. So there's, we have a lot of traditions and a lot of things that happen in our community that we're all very proud of, but there's also other traditions that maybe we need to start looking at and starting to change. And some of those traditions are, the way we interact with our kids and alcohol. And when I say that, here in our culture, drinking is very centralized in family and, in almost every event that happens with family, whether it's a baptism, a birthday party, a first communion, graduation, you name it, there's always alcohol present. And the kids are always around and have access to it. So we're really trying to look at the way we provide access for our kids.
So good evening, counselors and Mayor Calhoun and other members present. And Janie Corinne, I live north of Cuesta and I have for 27 years. And happy to consider this my home and be part of this community. And one of the things as a public health, I have a background in public health, community health. And when we look at our stats, and I'm sure you're aware, but there's some that just hit you right between the eyes. And this is one of them. Of all the 50 states, we have the highest rate of alcohol-related deaths that is mostly from illness and accidents. And our rate is double the national rate. So it's not just higher, it's double. And to bring that home, that means that every day of the year, this was from 2018, 4 people in our state die from alcohol-related causes. So, when I say that or feel it, it just like hits me in the middle of my chest. It's like, wow, this is, we really need to look at what's going on and what we can change. And here's another example of where we are, the relationship with our kids and how they have access to alcohol. These are 2019 survey from surveying the kids across the country and our state and our county. And so in the US as a whole, 15% of kids under 13, say they had their first drink before age 13. In our state, it's 1 out of 5. And in our county, it's 1 out of 4 children have their first drink before age 13. So they're starting early. And we know that we can look at this and see that if the US only has 15%, and in our state we have 20%, we're so much higher, we can change that. We know that's possible. And Maria, I'll let you take it from here. I think you're muted again.
I forgot I muted myself. We have a lot of highway noise, so I don't want it to be interrupting. 1 in 6, which is 16.4% of our Cuesta middle school kids is drinking about double the state rate. So if you're thinking about state rate, you cut that in half, and this is what Cuesta is presenting at the current moment. And then 6 in 10, 59% of our Cuesta high school kids are drinking. This is something just really want to note. 2 years ago, we were at maybe 39%, 43%, I think is maybe what our last count was. And we jumped in 2 years from that percentage to 59%. So seeing almost a 20% increase in that drinking within 30 days of our local Cuesta high school kids was really alarming to us. And we really have been trying to get the word out and let people know that this is not acceptable, and we really need to do something to help our kids live a safer life, especially with years to come. Everyone, I think, I don't know if we have that stat here, but anyone, the brain is still developing till the age of 25. And so anyone drinking under that age is already developmentally delaying their brain development if they're drinking under that age. So, we really want to make sure that our kids are living to their full potential. So what we get from a lot of the kids and what they're telling us of how they're getting it is they get it from adults, and older teens are giving it to them, and then also older peers or older family members. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I also need to unmute. So we have been working with Taos Alive, and I have a double role. I work with Vida del Norte as the evaluator, and I do the alcohol policy work with Taos Alive that covers our whole county and was our first drug-free coalition here 11 years ago. And so we have developed a campaign to see if we can change the way we are allowing our kids to access alcohol at such young ages. We really want to buy time. Every year that they delay starting to drink past 15, all the way up to actually 25, but to 21, their outcomes are better. Their chances for alcoholism go down. Their chances for alcohol-related problems go down. They have a better outlook on their future. So our campaign is called Refuse to Provide Alcohol to Minors. And we have a pledge that people can take, anyone, teens, any adult. And so here's what we're asking of you is for the town of Red River. We already have the mayor's support and the marshal's support, but we want to ask all of you to become involved. And this is what becoming involved looks like. It's not very complicated, and we're not asking for any money. To let you know that we just want your support and your involvement. So we'd love for you to publicize the campaign, and we have an easy website where people can sign up to take the pledge that they will refuse to provide alcohol to minors. And if you could encourage your constituents to take that pledge, that would be great. Our goal is 1,000 people in the next few months in our county. And then we're going to have big banners or barricades that go over that are covered with a banner like they have in Taos for the Mask Up campaign. And so if you could decide where in your community you would like to have such things, we'll supply them. And we'd love to have every business, every group, every faith community that would like to join the campaign. So we're in a soft launch now. We're ready to take pledges. We're ready to sign people up to reserve their banners and get going. So that's what we're doing, and we would love to hear your feedback and your response to our request.
Questions? Any comments?
I think it's a good idea to support that.
Everybody on board with that?
Yep.
Do we need to make a formal motion for that, or?
We can, it's, we did presentation and approval of.
Okay, and I guess the main thing I wanted you guys, your input on was putting the banners up in town. I didn't want to make that decision without your approval.
Doing those like that fit over the railing.
Yeah, we could just put one in the park and we could put one wherever. Okay, awesome. Sounds like we have support on this end.
Great.
So if I could just, I don't want to blindside you, but I've got just a quick question I want to get your input on.
Sure.
So we know the governor's probably going to call a special session to legalize recreational cannabis. And I just wondered what y'all's thought is on that.
You know, what I personally feel about cannabis being legalized is that it is the way of the future. It's going to happen regardless. It's a matter of when, not if. And the stats coming out of Colorado are very encouraging. Their youth rates did not go up when they legalized cannabis in Colorado. You would think it would, but it didn't. And so I think that our work continues the same as always, because our kids and many of our adults do not see marijuana as a drug. And the truth is that marijuana, the street marijuana at least, is not what it used to be. And it is addictive, and it can be harmful, especially for kids. So our education on that just needs to continue. And so I don't think we need to be alarmed at that prospect, but I do think we need to, roll up our sleeves and keep working.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to give my opinion also because I do see it a little differently than what Janie does. You know, we all have our own little opinions, and I'm going off of about, I guess it's been 2 years now. I was in some trainings with some other coalition coordinators that are in other states like Seattle and a couple of other places that have legalized. I don't know what Colorado has done to keep those youth rates down, and that would be really interesting to find out how they're doing it, because then maybe we can adopt what's happening there. But I know that in other states, maybe they weren't seeing an increase in marijuana use, but they were seeing an increase as marijuana was legalized. They were seeing an increase in other substances. So their thoughts were that because marijuana had become legalized, they were seeing other drugs as being acceptable as well. So they saw an increase in other substances being used in that. So that was kind of something that they were juggling with. Again, that was about 2 years ago, that this information was, you know, that we were kind of having this discussion, and unfortunately we've all been kind of disconnected the rest of this time. So I don't know what has happened in those 2 years within those states. But again, like Janie said, you know, education around, you know, the harms and the effects of it, because regardless, marijuana is a gateway drug and it does lead to other substances. So we need to make sure that we are educating our youth around that. And then maybe we can look at what Colorado is doing and help our legislators move forward in setting up some rules and you know, around that type of stuff, is especially in our prevention role. And that is part of our work as coalition members, is to be speaking with our representatives and making sure that they're aware of what is happening with our youth. So that would be something that we would be advocating for as well.
Okay, perfect.
What is the timeframe on your campaign? Is that going to be going on for 3 months or a year or from here on out?
Thank you. That's a great question. We're in soft launch now, which we just started, and thrilled to have you on board as a member. And we'll do just decided on the date today, a hard launch on May 13th, right before the Cuesta High School graduation, and then Taos High School graduation comes a couple of weeks later, and of course Memorial Day. And we'll run it probably through the middle of the summer, and then we're envisioning a second part. So, you know, if we can really help people realize that it's not being a favor to our kids to let them drink, and really disabuse them of the idea that, well, I'd rather have them drinking at home than in the woods. Well, those aren't the only two choices. You know, the idea is to ratchet it down so that there really is a strong parental policy about that for kids, that it's not healthy for you to drink. And kids are interested in their health and their future. So I think we can move that direction. And then the second part is, well, now what do we do with our kids if they're not drinking and we're not drinking at all the occasions? And I think we don't have that conceptualized as a motto yet, but for me, it's redefining the word party. So the party doesn't automatically mean heavy drinking. And right now, if you say party, that's what it means. And we have lots of ways we can party, lots of ways we can have fun, lots of ways we can interact with our kids, millions of them, and lots of talents and opportunities here. And, you know, from the outdoors to the arts, to the trades, to family traditions, everything. And so that would be the next part of that, to pick this up and carry it forward, to really take into our communities a movement to expand our idea of party, what it really means to celebrate and have fun.
And as a coalition, just FYI, we've actually started kind of implementing some of this as well. Rachel, our media specialist, has started up these, it's called a Healthy Hero campaign. And she launched it for St. Patrick's Day, where they did this little treasure hunt around the lake, and it was supposed to be family oriented. We had a really great turnout. They did their little treasure hunt on their own, you know, with COVID safe and, you know, practices. And we had a really good turnout. And that's the idea behind it, is getting our families out to do something different in our community, rather than just, the same old stay home, drink alcohol and have the kids around while the adults are drinking alcohol. But we want to be able to provide activities where the kids are engaging with their parents in positive activities. So it was a family-centered event, and we are hoping to do another one for Easter, where we'll be doing it the Saturday of Easter, and we're going to do a small little egg hunt. We're going to limit it to like maybe 3 or 4 kids, per little section, and they're going to be like allowed to hunt 12 eggs, and then they get a prize. But it'll be something fun that they can do interactive with their families, and so that'll be ongoing as we move through the summer months, and as long as the weather allows us, we'll continue to do things like that.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for presenting to us tonight. We really applaud the work that you're doing, and it's very valuable and much needed. So we're here to help any way we can.
We really appreciate it. Mayor, could I ask you, I couldn't quite hear, you were saying you would put up one, would be a barricade type banner, freestanding in the park? And there was something else said, but I didn't hear.
Well, I think we'll look at the areas that'll be the most effective as to where we can put them. And
Okay,
we get them. So I think we'll just kind of have to go through town and see where it's going to work the best.
great. We're collecting our orders. So as soon as you have that in mind, if you could just email me, and it could be a banner that you hang, or it could be like a bike rack barricade that you put the banner over. We could offer you each of those, each
Okay.
type. So you can let me
And
know how
when will
many
those
of
be
each.
When will those be available to put up? March 13th?
Yeah, we would like them to go up right around May 13th,
Okay.
so in a
perfect.
couple of months.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. We so
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much for having us on. We appreciate it. And if you don't mind, we're going to get off because we are actually presenting to the Cuesta Village Council right after this. So, but thank you for having us.
All right. Good deal. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You're doing some good work. Next, we have our financial audit, and we have Daniel with us from Kubiak, Milton and Associates. So I will turn it over to you, Daniel.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and everyone else joining us today via Zoom. I am here to present the fiscal year 2020 audit. And so the purpose of the presentation is that the state auditor requires that we present the released audit to a quorum of the governing body once it's released. And that just happened. So pretty much perfect timing for me to be on this meeting. And the audit is published and available on the state auditor's website. There's a little bit of a disconnect between how they used to publish them and how they're publishing them now. And so if you go search the way you used to, you might not find it. There's like another workaround to get to it. But we have submitted the electronic draft to Georgiana, and so she has that. We also are printing the physical hard copies, and we'll be binding them and mailing them so that the town council gets them and whoever else needs to get them gets them. But that's the purpose of why we're here. And so we'll go through some required communications that the standards require us to communicate. Auditors, our responsibility under generally accepted auditing standards is to plan and perform an audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. So that's just fancy jargon for, can you rely on the numbers in the financial statements as a user of those financial statements? So there were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We did identify one item on the financial statements that needed to be corrected. And so I'll get into that a little bit in the finding section, but an entry was proposed by the auditors, by us, to restate fund balance in the amount of $229,717,000 related to grants. I'll dive into that more specifically in the finding, but the long and the short of it is As you all know, the town operates on a budget basis of accounting, and that's very similar to like a cash basis. And what that means is when a dollar comes in, you recognize it as revenue. When a dollar goes out, you recognize it as expense. But for audit purposes, those are on a whole different basis of accounting. So they're on what they're called modified accrual and full accrual basis. So the difference between that and a budget basis is an accrual basis of accounting is you recognize revenue when it's earned or available. And for expenses, you recognize those expenses when the services or goods were actually received, not when you paid the invoice. So I'll dive into more of that specifically on the finding. Any uncorrected misstatements. So what that would be is any items identified as being wrong that weren't corrected. And there was none of those. No disagreements with management related to financial accounting, reporting, or auditing matters. Some of the more significant accounting estimates of the town are useful lives of capital assets. So obviously every municipality, county, school, they have a lot of assets, vehicles, buildings, wastewater treatment plants, things like that. And so you have to estimate the useful lives of those. So we kind of look at that for reasonableness every year, but it is an accounting estimate. Also, allowance for doubtful accounts, so especially with proprietary funds, with the enterprise funds, you always have to say, okay, well, there's customer receivables. How much of those do we expect to collect realistically? So that's an estimate. And then finally, the actuarial estimates relating to the town's net pension liability. So these are all numbers that come from PERA, and they have these actuaries that calculate, well, the town's net pension liability is X amount because they're X amount of the total PERA pension plan. So we like to just make sure that you all are aware of these are numbers that are estimates, and we kind of kick the tires on them, make sure they're reasonable, and then move on. Some financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. Keep in mind that the financial statement notes are a large portion of the actual financial statements. They give a lot of the background detail to the balances on the front side of the financial statements. Some more of the significant financial statement disclosures this year would be the net pension liability. So what that has to do with is, again, the PERA says the town participates in the PERA, and therefore they must carry a portion of the unfunded liability, and everyone has to do it, everyone who participates. So that's a significant financial statement disclosure insofar that it's typically several pages long and a lot of information. Also, we did add a footnote disclosure in there on your behalf for the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're taking note that there are effects that are known and unknown due to the pandemic as of right now, and therefore in the future, there may be effects that actually occur that we don't even know of right now. So just putting the reader on notice that in this point in time in our lives, there's some other external factors that may affect the financial statements in future periods. Beyond that, accounting policies, we always like to dive into this, and we spoke about this last year. There are two policies coming down the pipeline, and what we call them are GASB's, or Governmental Accounting Standards Board standards. And the pandemic allowed the GASB to push these all back 1 year for implementation, but the first one has to do with leases. So what the GASB is trying to do here is they're trying to look at any leases that any town or government's a party to. And the long and the short of it, as where a lease is really just an expense every month or every quarter. What they're trying to do is they're saying, okay, well, you promised to pay X amount of dollars for 5 years to use this asset, a right to use asset. And so therefore, we're going to put a liability on your books for that amount that you promised to pay. But also at the same time, you're going to get to use that asset for 5 years. So we're going to put that asset on the books as well. And so it's going to be a little interesting to see this actually being implemented across across the state and across governments because it is a little bit more of a complex standard. Anytime we run into trainings regarding this, especially if they're free, we'll send them out to the town management to be able to participate. But it's important for everyone to know that these are kind of coming down the pipeline and will have an effect on the financial statements in future periods. As well, the other one that's coming down is GASB 84, and that has to do with fiduciary activities. So the town presents agency fund or fiduciary activities in where they're holding money for other purposes that isn't their own. You can't make the decision on how to spend it. And so those are going to be reported a little differently. They used to be reported as the asset and the liability before the financial statements. And then they would only report on the changes to those assets and liabilities in the back of the financial statements. What this is doing is bringing everything up to the front of the financial statements and requiring a little more auditing on the additions and deletions or the revenue and expense of those fiduciary activities, of those fiduciary funds. And so those are coming down the pipeline. It's just important for everyone to kind of be aware of that. We would have spoke about them last year, but they actually got postponed by 1 year due to the pandemic. And specifically on the fiduciary activities, I believe it's the Enchantment Circle Fund, if I remember, Enchanted Circle Fund, if I remember correctly. Georgiana might be able to correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So with that, moving on to the meat and potatoes of what we're engaged to do. So we're engaged to give an opinion on whether or not a user of these financial statements can rely on those financial statements. And our opinion was an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion. So that tells the user of your financial statements, Town of Red River, that they can rely on them. So revenues are properly recorded, expenses are properly recorded, assets are properly recorded, liabilities are properly recorded. And beyond that, they're recorded in the proper funds is kind of the assurance we're giving. So we're not giving unlimited assurance, we're giving reasonable assurance that all that stuff is accurate. And then the other part that I'll go into is the review of the findings. So there were 2 findings for 2020, and there was 1 finding that was resolved from 2019. And the first one I alluded to at the beginning of my presentation has to do with the restatement related to revenue. So during our procedures, we identified 2 revenue transactions amounting to $229,000 that were related to the prior fiscal period. And so that sometimes happens when the money comes in way after year end. So sometimes your hands are tied because you can't tell them exactly when to pay you on some of these grants and things like that. But that's what happened on this particular item. We identified $229,000 worth of revenue that should have been recorded at fiscal year 2019. But because you were unaware of it when we issued the audit, because it came in late, it was recorded after the fact. But it's just one of those things when we talk about accounting standards, you have to recognize the revenue in the proper period. And for that reason, you weren't able to, but therefore it ends up in a finding because we had to restate prior year fund balance in that position. I'll go into the other findings and then I'll make sure that there's no questions related to the findings before I move on. Second finding has to do with exceeded budget authority, and particularly in Fund 209, which is the Special State Fire Protection Fund. Actual expenditures exceeded budget expenditures by $52,000. So that's just a compliance thing. If we identify that, it has to be reported. And so that's that. And then a big one from last year that was resolved is improper classification of transfers. As you all are aware, there were consultants that were hired by the town during the year to help kind of clear this stuff up. And it just had to do mostly with how transfers were being recorded. And obviously it was able to be resolved in FY20. So that's a big deal. Are there any questions specifically on the opinion or the findings?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Nope.
right. Well, with that, we'll kind of start wrapping this up. The audit is due to the state auditor's office by December 15th of every fiscal year. And that would be, 5.5 months after fiscal year end. And then we were able to submit it on time. It was submitted on December 15th. And this year, I don't know if it was, the pandemic, because I know the state auditor's office, they're all working from home a lot, but it seemed like it took a little bit longer to get the okay to print. And we received the okay to print last week on the 16th. And once we get the okay to print, we then identify if they have any comments. If they do, we make changes if applicable. If not, we just resubmit. Soon thereafter, we resubmit, they send what's called the release letter. Once we get the release letter and the town gets a release letter, the audit becomes public 5 calendar days after that. So it's currently public now because we would have received the release letter on March 17th. So that's why we're able to present in an open meeting today. We completed our 5th year with the town. The state audit rule allows us to do up to 6. So if we have the great fortune, we'll be working with you all 1 year before we would have to roll off for a minimum of 2 years, or a maximum of 2 years. And we just appreciate the opportunity to work with the town. There's a lot of stuff going on. Last year was a little bit more complex audit because there was a lot of federal dollars involved. That might be how it is for 2021. So we'll play it by ear, but we've had a really good experience working with the town. Georgiana and the team there have been a pleasure to work with, able to get things done professionally and get through it and be able to complete it on time, which is a really big deal, especially in a pandemic year where it's easy to make an excuse as to why you can't get the audit in. But I know that we did our stuff on our end to make sure we submitted all our audits on time. We had 2 late due to the clients, but 2 out of 20 some is pretty low percentage. So big kudos to your team over there for getting everything we needed to get it done. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. Council, do you have any questions? So Jana, do you have anything? Do we need to approve this? Okay, so I would take a motion to approve our 2019-2020 financial audit.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, by Councilor Cherry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilor Berndl. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you all. You all stay safe and healthy, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thanks. Okay, next item is financial report and approval of expenditures.
Okay. So budget used to date is 66.67%. Our sectors that we watch collected in March for January. Construction was up $1,137, 10.39%. Retail trade was down $4,170, 4.78%. Real estate was down $8,205, 35.48%. Accommodation food service was down $10,485, 22.82%. Gross receipts tax collection for the month were down $23,401, 10.84%. Year-to-date, we're down $53,024, 3.59%. Lodgers tax for the month, we're down $30,036, 32.84%. Year-to-date, we're down $61,877, 10.91%. And all reported. Ms. Meredith?
Thank you, Georgiana. Do you have any questions on the reports or the expenditures? And I know there were some questions at the lodgers tax meeting about our lodgers tax being down at 32.84%. So we did check with Taos and they were actually down 63%.
Town and county.
That's the town.
Oh, I suspect it would be down because I even, all the lodging places had restrictions on occupancies.
Exactly,
Restaurants had occupancies, so it's
exactly.
Did you get all the streetlights installed?
On Main Street, we have, and including the Y. Our next
Was
project,
that one missing for a minute? Now it's been finished.
Yes, and we have, what, 4 down here that
On
aren't lit
Pioneer.
up yet in Pioneer.
four down there need new wiring, right?
Do they have to wire them underneath the sidewalk?
Mhm.
But they can just pull conduit, pull it in conduit.
yes. They meaning Kit Carson has to come in.
Are they
gonna
work on the one down there by the other one of the highway lights?
The taller lights.
Real highway light that's never on.
We'll talk to Kit Carson about that.
Okay, any questions on
Sorry, I just saw that
expenditures?
in there. That's all.
It's okay. Any questions? If not, I would take a motion to approve the financial report and expenditures for February 2021.
I'll make the motion to approve financial report and approval of expenditures for February 2021.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next we'll move on to our committee reports and start with public safety.
We did have a meeting. It was short and sweet. I think it was 10 minutes. And we had department reports. Ed Saint was reporting for both the EMS and fire departments. He reported there were 8 transfer calls and 24 EMS calls for a total of 32 in February. This is an average number of calls compared to other years. They did a mileage breakdown between EMS and transfers. Run approximately, there's probably 75% of the mileage is on transfers. In February, a new person was added to the EMS staff. This person has worked for the department previously, and they're an intermediate EMT. Didn't give us any name. The intermediate class is going well. Staff has already gotten to complete its training tasks, and it's very familiar with it, so it's they will graduate sometime in May. EMS load at the ski area was picking up a little bit. They've had a few calls that could have been handled at the clinic where it opened, but they've had to transfer them to Taos. From the fire department, he reported call volume was average. There was one fire call in February, the CO2 call, and a 3-year comparison is basically the same. Inspections will be ramping up now that the nightly rentals are going to be closed for off season. And then Tim reported for the marshal's office that the call volume was about average for the month. However, the domestic violence and alcohol related calls were on the rise. This is a normal trend for this time of year. And he's reported that this Senate Bill 376 qualified immunity died in committee, which is very good because it was going to cause officers to be liable for everything that could be sued individually. He said that if that would have passed, he would have probably had to resign and leave town because he wouldn't be able to take that chance. So we're glad that failed. And he reported that Dennis Engineering is going to perform the traffic study on the HOV requirement. Once this is done, then we should be able to hear something back from the state on that. And at that point, we adjourned.
Any questions? All right, we'll go to Public Works Recycling.
Okay, we did have a short meeting also. Isaac reported that we're still dealing with some frozen sewer lines, mainly in the Tenderfoot area. Got those resolved. The slash pile got burned. It's getting pretty big. Also reported they need to replace the parks truck, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in the budget meeting, how that's going to be paid for and all that good stuff. But it's time for that one to get replaced. The control valve for well number 5 is leaking. They ordered it and it will be replaced. I'm sure that's probably already done. We want to keep an eye on the public works building progress. So we went ahead and added that to our agenda each month. It's still in the design phase at the moment, and the exact location is still being discussed. And also we're just going to call that the solar canopy behind the town hall, where we can park vehicles and they'll be out of the sun, is still in the works also. Project updates, everything's still on hold till April, so nothing there. And we were adjourned.
Thank you. Parks and Rec.
We did have a meeting, and Tracy had gotten a meeting scheduled with Gregory Neal, who was the rep from Exerplay that installed our equipment out here in Brandenburg Park. And that ended up having to be rescheduled. So I'm not sure the exact date of the reschedule yet, but we are moving forward on trying to get some bids for replacement of the playground equipment out here in the front. Paulette's gonna be working with April as far as going around town and getting site locations where we need signage. Again, just especially for the parks, but I'm sure we'll work with the town, everybody all together on coordinating signage for everybody. But they're supposed to do that, doing a walk around on it and get all that set up for us. So we'll know the number of signs and what'll be needed. And then also the committee agreed on May the 12th for a cleanup day for Millette Park. And so we'd like to see if we can get that publicized and maybe get some volunteers to help come join us so we can get ready for the beginning of the summer season. The parks are gonna need, just a little cleaning up, sprucing up, and the normal that we do. So that way we can help our parks department crew work and just have some volunteers show up for that. We'll get a few more details on it probably next month. So we'll have it set to go. I know Linda, you were working as far as we're still trying to get some information for the tennis court.
We're
project.
waiting for the snow to melt so I can take some pictures.
Perfect. So, and again, just, so everybody knows we haven't forgot about it. It is something we're working on, and hopefully, we'll be able to get that set up. And then once we do, we'll at least have a court, and then we can probably have it cross marked, so we'll be able to do pickleball and tennis as well on it. And then other than that, Tracy made a motion to the committee and everybody voted on it and agreed about, the department's always been called Parks and Recreation. And they thought about, she had mentioned it and everybody voted and agreed with it, that rather than be in Parks and Recreation, that we call it the Parks and Trails Department. because now that we've got some of the trails all up here behind, and that we're adding them where a lot of people who come to town don't necessarily know that we have trails or trail systems. So as we try to grow that and advance that, so it gives a little more recognition. So we'd like, if everybody's okay with the council on it, just to start calling it the Parks and Trails Department rather than Parks and Rec. So
It's fine, yeah.
I need just another quick note. Dina had mentioned they had put a sign up on the trail loop up here and had it set up where people that were actually hiking the trail could sign in, put a date and their name, where they were from, and just a little information if they wanted to put it. And I forget how many entries they said they had already had on it. So that's something we're looking at, gonna try and implement on as we expand all the trails and stuff, to put that up too, so people can see it. And maybe you want to leave, a little information. So, well, we're excited with our Parks Department. As far as the dog park, they got the plaques back from the people, and they're supposedly will be getting put on the big paw prints, put on that, so that, and then the water fountain will be in this spring. And looks like dog parks getting used almost every single day. So that we've done a lot of good comments on it. So we're excited. Should be a good year for us. So.
And just so you're aware, we may have some issues with the water fountain,
Yeah,
with the environment department and having the humans and dogs drinking out of the same fountain, and the back water going back possibly into our system, and it having to be disinfected after every use. So we may have to revisit that.
well, I know they mentioned that it had to be tied in here for the sewer line, and couldn't we just back drain that way? So if there's something else they're coming, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I think we talked to Isaac about that today, but there's going to be some problems, I'm afraid,
Okay. Well, we'll
because
just-
we can't afford to contaminate our system.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to, and especially now you can't even have water fountains with COVID, but yeah, there's just some problems with humans and animals together.
Who's dirty?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just what the environment department says. So anyway, so we need to follow up with that.
Okay, yeah. not a
Okay.
problem.
I have a
Right.
question out on the playground stuff. Is that gonna be total replacement, or is it just gonna be
That needs to
addition?
be
Total replacement, the plan. And again, like I said, in our master plan, we had, Brandenburg was gonna be our first priority to start working on to get it. And, working on the stage and that stuff here for Brandenburg. And then, like I said, just gradually go along. Like I said, the vision at some point in time would be maybe to have the skate park down there at the other sports complex and soccer field, a couple tennis courts down there. Oh, one other thing, we'll probably have James get, as soon as the weather, everything clears up, so we can actually paint the basketball half court,
good.
so they can see where the lines are, so. But anyway, that, just be working soon, I suppose, next month, starting to see about getting ready to work with the flowers and stuff for the street, Main Street and all that, so.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Lodgers tax and economic development.
We did have a meeting, and my minutes were in my drafts folder. I told you, Jana, since then. So I sent it this morning, but I guess we didn't make it in time for this. But
No,
so
It should be in there. I'm sorry if it.
That's all right. If anyone wants it, I have it. I can send it to you. We did have a meeting. The chamber gave us a little update. They're still kind of figuring out what to do for Art and Wine, the rest of the events. They talked about the rest of the events that can be run by the town. We'll get to that in a second. They are still working on a medical cost. And they are chambers of the Enchanted Circle Summit. There's a program they're going to be doing in April, working with all the other chambers in the area. And then they were talking about trying to get some job and internship fairs going for summer employment, but not sure if they're gonna be able to do that given everything that's going on for this summer. As everybody knows, the ski area closed, had a great closing weekend. So they gave us a nice little update on what they were doing to keep people safe up until closing day. And then from the tourism department, as of the time of our meeting, Sybil only had 3 businesses left for the CARES Act funding. So again, if she's asking me for stuff, please help get her that so we can get that done and move on. We've had a flood of wedding inquiries for the summer as the restrictions have eased up. We multiple meetings with the New Mexico True Crew, social calendars moving from online website. Happy sent us a social calendar that pairs with the tourism one, and we're working on it with some tweaks. That's a calendar for our social posting with Happy's direction. Looks like it was a busy month last month for people to sit around and look on social media. We were up 172% overall, which is great. People are still looking and they're seeing our stuff. Starting to see some more foot traffic in the tourism office. They are open to the public with plexiglass and rope to keep all the requirements. Max is still getting certified on everything he can and working to do better and better for us, which is awesome. Working on updating the website with photos, listing, and moving some things around. If you have a listing on the website for a business and your photo is lacking, please contact April and she can have somebody. Let's get everybody looking new and professional and in good condition. Special events still moving target, working on Memorial Day car show, the Red River Run, and Enchanted Circle Century Tour. We had some people in town that were doing the running event, kind of come and check everything. The Century Tour contract should be coming this week, so hopefully we have it by now. Working on the press release and public announcement for that. Then Happy was in town for a little while, who's our marketing crew. Thanks to everyone who contributed. Todd, Sitzmark, Brett's Brewery, Sled Shed, Steve, Barely Wait, Ski Area, Text Threads, and everybody else. We also, Linda and April met with Happy about the latest Facebook campaign. We've got reports on that. Again, Texas is still the biggest draw, and the lodging campaign seems to hit the best. If anybody has questions, go see April. And just working away and getting ready for summer. We are at 94.6% occupancy on the workforce housing. So everything that is rentable is rented. We've got a waiting list still, working on some projects. And 23 booking requests for the conference center in February. We're still booking 2021, 2022. And just rocking and rolling, getting people booked. People are starting to be ready to come out and about. So, adjourn.
Everybody sounds busy. Thanks. Okay, under Mayor's report. Again, I want to offer our condolences to the Patterson family. Larry Patterson passed away last night. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And then on a more positive note or a happier note, the New Mexico Transit Association puts out a newsletter, and our own Jimmy Newworth was featured with a nice article about Jimmy and the town and the work that he does for the bus. So that's kind of nice. So if you see him, just give him a pat on the back and congratulations. Yeah, there you go. Get his autograph. I guess I'll start with a brief COVID update. We had our mayor's council meeting yesterday with the governor's staff, and they sounded as positive as I think they've ever sounded since we began these meetings. And you know, her chief of staff actually used the term that we are getting ready to enter recovery mode. And so it seems like there's the light at the end of the tunnel, or wrap up mode. So hopefully things will begin to turn around and open up. They were talking about how they're working with Balloon Fiesta and Indian Market and how those events can take place. And, you know, so hopefully by summer, things are going to be back to some semblance of normal. You know, unfortunately, we will probably stay yellow tomorrow. I think there's been too many cases in the county for us to go to green, but we made it through the spring break busy period, I think fairly decent. And everybody's probably tired and ready for a little bit of rest right now. The town is going to be getting $110,000 from the American Rescue Plan funding, which is the latest round of CARES funding. We're still kind of waiting to see what exactly the guidelines are that we can spend that on. We've heard it can be some revenue replacement. So we're not exactly sure what we can use that for, but we'll be attending some seminars and webinars and finding out. And we have, I think, until 2024 to spend that money, but it probably won't take us that long. On the legislative front, we're in for 300,000 for the water line replacement out in Tenderfoot. The school has 100,000 for their building fund, and then 220,000 for the Quest of Irregular Trails to the Enchanted Circle Trails Association. So hopefully that's on the governor's desk and she will sign those and we'll get that money. We're also still working with our federal consultants in DC on they've met with our congressional delegation, and we've identified projects that we want them to work on, which is High Street and the sidewalks and the Public Works Building and Town Hall, and just several. We've tried to give them as many projects as we can so they can kind of look for wherever they can find the funding. And their plan is to come out over Memorial Weekend to they want to come a couple of days before and stay a couple of days later so they can get a good idea of the town and actually put their eyes on the projects that we're looking at doing. So it's nice to have somebody in DC working for us. We're going to meet with WH Pacific on Friday to talk about the solar parking structure. We'll probably talk to them a little bit about the heliport. We're looking at how we can reduce the footprint of that down so we can maybe use some of that other land around it. The fire department is hosting a wildland firefighter training this week. We have 42 total applicants to be trained, 21 this week, and then 21 here in another couple of weeks. So that's good because we're going to need, with the extreme drought conditions they're talking about, we're probably going to be faced with some fires. And that's a really good revenue source for our department. We are approved as a COVID testing site here at the conference center. We had our first testing done last Tuesday and had 25 people come in and get tested. And I think they're going to do it again next week. And so they'll just kind of be watching that. And as long as there's the need for it and there's the interest, they'll continue to do that. So Ron and Dina kind of spearheaded that effort and got that set up. And then we're also still looking at ways that we could be a vaccination site. So we could make sure we get all of our people vaccinated. There is some proposed changes to the fishing pond. I guess New Mexico Game and Fish every 4 years looks at what the regulations are. So they're looking at increasing the bag limit from 3 trout to 5 trout, adding 65 years and older to the age group, and reducing 12 years and younger to 11 years and younger. And so they would work on some new signs if it's adopted. And then they would also stock more fish in the ponds because of the increase in the bag limit. So they're just trying to streamline things. And I guess every 4 years they look at that.
That puts them in line with the current regulations everywhere else in the state.
So that's,
We just have weird rules.
okay. So that would be good to get that done. There is going to be a virtual town hall on Thursday, the 25th. Get Outside New Mexico. It's a statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So that's Thursday at 5. And if anybody wants that information, we might put that out on the listserv, and that way you can sign up for it. They're just kind of doing evaluating the existing supply of outdoor recreation resources and facilities in the region to help prioritize for future funding of recreational outdoor projects. So that's kind of a good thing.
That's gonna be a Zoom meeting.
A Zoom meeting, right?
and You have to register.
You have to register for it.
Pre-register if you want to join it.
Right. And then they'll send you out the link and all for that. So in fact, I could probably give you this, and it's got the information if you want it, and we'll send out the link. Georgiana and I have started meeting with department heads and getting ready for budget time. We've met with Tim yesterday and April, and then today we met with Isaac and we met with Tim. Tim was today. Tim and Isaac were today, and April yesterday. Just kind of going through and looking how we can streamline the budgets the best way we can. We're hoping not to have to do any budget reductions this year. We did take a 20% last year, not knowing what COVID was going to do. Got it?
Got
Okay. So hopefully this year we can be flat, but we're also hoping that we can continue with some really good projects that need to be done, because even with COVID, we're still in a pretty good financial situation. So what we're wanting to do is to think about a budget special work session that we can have probably the end of the month. So what kind of scheduling do you guys look like for the rest of, for April, for the end of April? Are you going to be
I'm
around?
gone the last week, April.
Last
I'm
week.
gone the second week and the last week.
I won't be here till 29.
You'll be here till about the 29th?
No, I won't.
You won't be. Okay, Sloan.
I leave the 30th.
Okay. The second week of April, you're gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no, the first week. We leave on the 3rd for a week,
Okay.
and then I'm back for a week, and then I'm gone.
Okay, we'll try to get out some scheduling because we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to get together and work on our budgets. So it has to be submitted by May 30th, June 1st. So if not April, we'll have to do it early May. And then also with things beginning to ease up, I'm planning on our committee meetings to start being live so that we'll meet in person. And so that will be the April meetings. We'll go ahead and meet in person. And we are also, we realized that we're kind of struggling with the Zoom. So Sybil and Max are working on what kind of equipment we need to make sure that our Zoom meetings are easily heard, and so that we have really good control of how we handle the meetings. So hopefully, even though we begin meeting in person next month, we'll always make our meetings public. They're always public, but we'll make it so that they're available on Zoom so everybody
So
can.
Committee
Zoom.
members won't be able to Zoom anymore.
We would prefer that they come in person. Yeah, that would be the hope, because we're getting to the point where summer's here, budget time's here, projects. We've just got so much work to do that I think it's good to start gathering in person again. Okay, I think, did I miss anything? Oh, district meetings are April 16th. Are they at 10?
I believe so.
And that's going to be done by Zoom. So even if you're out having fun, you can still watch district meetings. It's a Friday, I believe. Yeah. And then one other thing, we did get the contract from Chandler for the Enchanted Circle bicycle tour today. So we will be getting that to our attorneys to look at, and he will be here the week of April 12th through the 15th. So he'll have a chance to look at the area, kind of assess the situation, and meet with local people to move forward with that. And I think that's everything. Any questions for me? Anybody? Okay, good deal. We'll move on to planning and zoning, and there are no items. So then we'll move to new business. And the first item is to ratify Emily Mack. She's one of our new dispatchers and is doing an excellent job.
That's a
So-
young gal, Laura's daughter.
Yeah, she's young, but she's really a sharp girl. So if I could have a motion to ratify Emily Mack as our dispatcher.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Steve's got it.
Steve,
Sorry.
Sloan second it. Okay, do I have any discussion on that? All right, roll call.
Counselor Sloan Covington.
Yes.
Counselor Dan Foley.
Yes.
Counselor George Wondell.
Yes.
Counselor Steve Cherry.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of resolution 2021-4 budget adjustments. Do you want to go over these?
Yes, it was. Deke received a RFA VFA grant. He received an RFA VFA grant for Wildland Gear. So that wasn't initially in our budget, so that's, that's why this budget adjustment. And so a portion of it is a match, so that's coming out of 299, and then we inputted the grant portion into 399. And then in 299, we moved some of the line items. We decreased 42070 by 3,000 because he needed equipment for 48020. He needed that equipment line item to go up to purchase some more items for wildland fire. And that's the reason for the resolution.
Any questions?
Make a motion that we adopt resolution 2021-04.
Do I have a second? Any other discussion or questions? Roll call?
Counselor Steve Cherry,
Yes.
Counselor Sloan Covington,
Yes.
Counselor George Wondell,
Yes.
Counselor Dan Foley.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The next is resolution 2021-05, and this is approval for a surplus sale. And the items that we are putting on the surplus sale are listed. It's a 2002 Ford SRW and a 2008 Chevy K10753.
And those, the first. It's already sold today. I had it on public surplus.
Yeah.
It's sold today.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so
I know.
if I could have a motion for resolution 2021-05.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
Dan and seconded by George. Any questions or discussion? Okay, roll call.
Counselor Sloan Covington,
Just lost.
We lost the internet.
Yes.
Counselor Dan Foley,
Yes.
Counselor Steve Cherry,
Yes.
Counselor George Wondell.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, at this time, we are in public comment. Do we have any? Well,
She's still coming through.
I've still got them here because I guess I'm on the internet. So if anybody does want to comment, I guess unmute yourself and certainly call on you. And we apologize, but it's snowing pretty heavy, so I don't know if that had something to do with it or not. Paulette, I see you're unmuted. Did you have a comment?
Just wanted to ask, so are we about $100,000 down over the year of COVID? Is that about right?
Our lodger's tax is $53,000 down year to date, which is 3.59%.
Just a round number.
Okay, and our lodger's tax is down 61.8. So total would be, yeah, a little over 100,000.
So if we got that $100,000 from the state, we'd be flush.
Well, the 110 coming from the feds, the American Rescue Plan, that's already, we know that's coming. We're not sure when it's coming, but we definitely are getting that.
Well, then we're in pretty good shape.
We're in pretty good shape. Anybody else? And I think we're going to have a bang up summer. So I think we're going to be in real good shape. And we've actually, just so everybody's aware, we have started our advertising again. We've approved some billboards that are going to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we're moving full speed ahead. Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll be adjourned. Thank you all.
This is-
Now I see it at the very end.
That's mine.